The stars looked different from the observation deck of the EAS horizon. Fleet Admiral John Miller stood with his hands clasped behind his back, watching as the ship's Alcubierre warp drive bent space around them. The year was 2157, and humanity had finally achieved true interstellar travel. This mission would mark humanity's first official contact with the Galactic Confederation. "Nervous, Admiral?" asked Dr. Lisa Peterson as she joined him by the large viewport. Her dark hair was pulled back in a practical bun, and her eyes reflected the strange light patterns of warp travel. "I'd be a fool not to be," Miller replied. "We're making history today, Doctor. First humans to meet an organized galactic community." Lisa nodded. As the mission's chief xenobiologist and linguist, she had spent years preparing for this moment. "The translation matrices are ready. If their communication systems are anything like the data packets we intercepted, we should be able to understand each other." The Horizon was Earth's most advanced vessel, flanked by two smaller escort ships, the Venture and the Pathfinder. Together they carried Earth's diplomatic mission, scientists, diplomats, and a military contingent that Miller had insisted upon. Earth's governments had finally united after decades of climate crises and resource wars. The discovery of alien signals had been the final push humanity needed to work together. Miller's comm unit beeped. "Admiral, we're approaching the coordinates. Preparing to exit warp," reported Captain Frank Rogers from the bridge. "On my way," Miller said. He gave Lisa a nod, and they made their way to the bridge. The bridge hummed with activity as the crew prepared for the historic moment. The main screen showed the swirling energies of warp space. "Exit in 54321, announced the navigation officer. The view on the screen shifted dramatically. Normal space returned, and before them hung a massive structure, a wheel-shaped space station with spokes extending from a central hub. Around it, ships of various designs moved in organized patterns. "My God," whispered someone on the bridge. "Open channels," Miller ordered. "Standard greeting package." Communications Officer Diane Brown nodded. "Transmitting now, sir." Minutes passed in tense silence. Then the main screen flickered, revealing two alien beings. One resembled a humanoid bird with iridescent feathers and sharp eyes. The other was reptilian, with scaled skin and a long, narrow face. "Greetings, representatives of Earth," the avian being said, its beak moving strangely with the words. "I am High Commissioner Traz of the Krell. Beside me is Supreme Counselor Vex of the Vorax. We welcome you to Confederation space." Miller stepped forward. "I am Fleet Admiral John Miller of Earth. We come in peace and friendship, seeking to establish diplomatic relations with your Confederation." Lisa stood nearby, monitoring her translation equipment. The words seemed to be converting correctly, but something in the alien's posture made her uneasy. "Your arrival has been anticipated," said Counselor Vex, the reptilian. "We have observed your world for some time. Your achievement of warp capability qualifies you for formal introduction to the galactic community." "We are honored," Miller replied. "We have prepared detailed information about our world and people, and look forward to learning about yours." "Excellent," said Commissioner Traz. "Please dock your vessels at the designated ports. We have prepared appropriate accommodations for your species." As the communication ended, Lisa approached Miller. "Admiral, did you notice anything unusual about their body language?" Miller frowned. "You caught that too? They seemed restrained. Almost calculating," Lisa added. "I'd advise caution." Miller nodded. "Always, Doctor." Captain Rogers approached with care, maintained defensive systems on standby. The Earth ships were guided to docking ports on the massive station. As Miller led the diplomatic team aboard, he couldn't shake a feeling of unease. The station corridors were clearly designed for multiple species, with varying ceiling heights and atmospheric sections. They were escorted to a large chamber where representatives of 7 different alien species waited. Besides the avian Krell and reptilian Vorax, there were crystalline beings, massive entities that seemed partly gaseous, small gray humanoids, tentacled creatures floating in liquid tanks, and tall, slender beings with 4 arms. the 7 founding species of the Galactic Confederation, announced an automated translator. You will now present your credentials and petition for observer status. Miller stepped forward with Earth's chief diplomat, Helen Martinez. We come not as petitioners, but as equals seeking mutual exchange and cooperation. A noticeable stiffening went through the alien representatives. That is unusual, said the Vorax counselor. Most new species understand their place in the natural order. Helen maintained her diplomatic smile. Perhaps we can discuss these protocols. On Earth, we value equality in our diplomatic relations. Fascinating, said one of the crystalline beings, its voice creating harmonic tones. The reports of human unpredictability appear accurate. The formal meeting proceeded, with each side sharing carefully prepared information. When the subject turned to military matters, however, the atmosphere chilled further. Of course, all member species place their defensive capabilities under Confederation authority, stated High Commissioner Traz. This is non-negotiable for security reasons. Miller exchanged glances with Helen. I'm afraid Earth cannot agree to surrender its defensive sovereignty. We're happy to coordinate and cooperate, but our fleet remains under Earth command. The room went silent. The 7 representatives communicated among themselves in ways the humans couldn't understand. Subtle movements, light patterns, and frequencies beyond human perception. Finally, the Vorax counselor spoke. This is most irregular. Perhaps you misunderstand the nature of the Confederation. We are not a loose alliance of equals. There is order and hierarchy. Lisa whispered to Miller. Something's wrong. The translation matrix is picking up subharmonics in their speech. There's another conversation happening beneath their words. Before Miller could respond, alarms blared throughout the station. What's happening? Demanded Helen. A regrettable necessity, said the Vorax counselor, standing. Your species has been evaluated and found dangerously unpredictable. Preliminary containment measures are being implemented. The main view screen activated, showing Earth's escort vessels under attack by Confederation ships. The Pathfinder exploded in a ball of fire as multiple energy beams struck it simultaneously. This is an act of war, Miller shouted. We came in peace. Peace requires order, replied the Krell Commissioner. Your species must learn its place. Miller slapped his emergency beacon. All personnel return to the horizon immediately. This is not a drill. Chaos erupted as the human delegation fled toward their ship. Confederation security forces attempted to block their path, but the Earth Marines responded with surprising effectiveness. They didn't expect us to fight back, Lisa realized as they ran. They're used to species that surrender immediately. Miller nodded grimly. That's their first mistake. They barely made it back to the horizon as the second escort ship, the Venture, was destroyed. Captain Rogers had the engines ready, and the moment the airlock sealed, he executed an emergency warp jump. The ship shuddered violently as enemy fire struck them just as they entered warp space. Damage reports flooded in, half the crew lost, multiple systems failing, but they were alive and moving. Admiral Miller stood in the damaged bridge, face illuminated by emergency lighting. Set course for Earth. Maximum speed. He looked at the survivors of his diplomatic team. We need to warn them. The galaxy isn't what we hoped. Lisa Peterson stared at the swirling patterns of warp space on the view screen. They thought we would surrender our independence without question. They don't understand humans at all. They'll learn, Miller said quietly, and they'll regret this day. As the damaged horizon limped back toward Earth, carrying news of humanity's violent introduction to galactic politics, none of them could know they had just sparked what would later be called the Liberation War, a conflict that would ultimately change the power structure of the entire galaxy. 6 months had passed since the EAS horizon limped back to Earth with its grim news. The once peaceful shipyards orbiting Earth now buzzed with military activity. Construction drones swarmed around massive warships taking shape against the blackness of space. Earth was preparing for war. Chief Defense Strategist Olivia Warren stood in the command center beneath the Rocky Mountains, watching the holographic display of the solar system. Red markers indicated the defensive installations being built around Jupiter's moons, Mars, and Earth itself. Not enough, she muttered, brushing a strand of gray hair from her face. We need more time. Time is the one thing we don't have, said Lieutenant Commander Sam Davies as he entered the room. At 35, Davies had already earned a reputation as a brilliant tactician during the resource wars. Now he had been promoted to head of fleet operations, a job he never wanted. The latest intelligence? Olivia asked, not looking away from the display. Dr. Russell's team has made progress reverse engineering the Confederation technology we salvaged from the horizon. The good news is, their weapons aren't as advanced as we feared. The bad news is they have a lot more ships than we do. Olivia nodded. And Admiral Miller? Still recovering from his injuries, but he insists on being part of the planning committee. He knows the enemy better than anyone else. The door slid open again, and Intelligence Officer Kate Murphy entered, her face grim. You need to see this, she said, transferring data to the main display. The hologram shifted to show intercepted Confederation communications, translated into English. The images showed massive fleet movements. They're mobilizing, Kate explained. Our deep space probes detected quantum communication bursts between their systems. They're sending an armada to Earth. Olivia's face hardened. How long? 3 months, maybe less. The room fell silent. Humanity had hoped for more time. There's something else, Kate added. We've been contacted by representatives of other species. This caught everyone's attention. It seems not everyone in the galaxy is happy with the Confederation. Several smaller species have reached out in secret. They refer to themselves as the subjugated. Sam leaned forward. Potential allies? Perhaps. They fear the Confederation too much to fight openly, but they're willing to share information. According to them, the 7 founding species have dominated the galaxy for thousands of years. They classify other intelligent life into categories. We've been labeled a wild species, unpredictable and dangerous. They're not wrong about that last part, Olivia said with a grim smile. In another part of the complex, Dr. Kevin Russell worked feverishly in his laboratory. Pieces of alien technology lay scattered across workbenches. He had barely slept in days, fueled by determination and coffee. Try it now, he told his assistant. The young engineer activated the device. A shimmering field appeared around a test object. When they fired a standard energy weapon at it, the shield held. It works, the assistant exclaimed. Kevin nodded, exhausted, but pleased. Get this to production immediately. Every ship in the fleet needs these shields yesterday. Meanwhile, aboard the newly commissioned EAS Defiance, Admiral John Miller examined the ship's bridge. His left arm was now a prosthetic, a reminder of the attack that had nearly killed him. The Defiance was Earth's new flagship, built with everything they had learned from the Confederation encounter. She's ready, sir, said the ship's captain, a young woman named Judy Chen. The fastest ship we've ever built. Let's hope it's fast enough, Miller replied. Status of the fleet? 27 combat-ready vessels. Another 15 will be operational within 2 months. Miller nodded. It would have to be enough. Back on Earth, the United Earth Council met in emergency session. Representatives from all nations gathered to hear the latest reports. The outer system defenses are in place, Olivia Warren explained to the council. Jupiter's moons now host our forward bases. Mars has been fortified. But make no mistake, this will be the fight of our lives. Council President Carlos Reyes spoke up. What about evacuation plans? In progress, but there's nowhere to run that they can't follow. Our best chance is to stand and fight. Not everyone agreed with this assessment. Some council members argued for attempting further diplomatic contact. Others suggested surrender might save more lives. Sam Davies stepped forward. I've studied the Confederation tactics from the data we salvaged. They expect submission. They've never faced a species that fought back effectively. That's our advantage. How is being outnumbered and outgunned an advantage? Asked one skeptical council member. Because they don't understand us, Sam explained. They think all species follow predictable patterns, humans don't. We adapt, we improvise, we overcome, and most importantly, We're stubborn as hell." A ripple of laughter broke the tension in the room. 2 months later, the warning came from the deep space monitoring stations. The Confederation Armada had entered the solar system. Over 200 ships of various sizes, led by a massive dreadnought. Enter the war room. Olivia, Sam, and Admiral Miller gathered with Earth's military leadership to enact their plan. "They've bypassed the outer system defenses," reported Kate Murphy. "Just as we predicted. They think our technology is too primitive to pose a threat." Miller nodded. "Spring the trap." Throughout the Jupiter system, hidden installations powered up. Automated defense platforms emerged from the moon's surfaces. The Confederation fleet, focused on reaching Earth, didn't notice until the first volley of missiles struck their rear ships. "They're breaking formation," Sam observed from the tactical display on the Defiance. The Earth fleet waited in Mars orbit, hidden from the enemy's sensors by new stealth technology developed by Dr. Russell. "All ships prepare to engage," Miller ordered. "Remember your training. They expect us to fight conventionally. Don't." As the Confederation fleet regrouped and continued toward Mars, Supreme Commander Xylos of the Vorax watched with contempt from the bridge of his dreadnought. "These humans are more resourceful than expected," he remarked to his subordinate. "But their attacks are merely delaying the inevitable." "Should we send ships back to deal with the Jupiter defenses?" asked his second-in-command. "No. They're merely automated weapons pushed forward to Earth. Once their homeworld is threatened, they will surrender, like all the others." What the Confederation forces didn't realize was that Earth had one more surprise, waiting. As their fleet approached Mars, the planet's polar ice cap suddenly erupted with activity. Massive electromagnetic pulses shot forth, disrupting the Confederation's quantum communications network. When the Earth fleet emerged from hiding, they attacked with unexpected ferocity. Smaller, nimbler human ships darted between the larger, alien vessels, targeting engines and weapons systems with precision. In the chaos, Lieutenant Commander Davies led a strike team directly toward the Confederation flagship. The Defiance and its escort vessels punched through the disorganized alien formation. "They're adjusting," Miller warned over the comm. "Hit them harder." The Battle of Mars lasted 14 hours. When it ended, a third of the Confederation fleet had been destroyed. The rest, including the damaged flagship, retreated toward the outer system. On the Defiance's bridge, the crew erupted in cheers. They had achieved the impossible, humanity's first victory against an overwhelmingly superior force. Admiral Miller didn't join the celebration. He stared at the tactical display showing the retreating enemy ships. "They'll be back," he said quietly to Sam Davies. "With more ships and better tactics." Sam nodded. "Yes, sir. But next time we'll be stronger too." On Earth, news of the victory spread like wildfire. For the first time since learning they weren't alone in the galaxy, humans felt hope. They had proven they wouldn't be easy prey. The fight had just begun. But an important message had been sent to the Confederation. Humanity would not surrender. The victory at Mars changed everything. 2 weeks after the battle, Sam Davies stood in a room that had once been unimaginable, an interrogation chamber containing a living Confederation officer. The alien, a Vorax named Telvis, sat across from him. Its scaled skin glistened under the lights and vertical pupils narrowed as it studied the human. "You must understand," Telvis said in a rasping voice, translated by the device Dr. Lisa Peterson had developed. "The 7 species have ruled the galaxy for over 12,000 years. Your resistance is unprecedented." "Why attack us?" Sam asked. "We came in peace." The Vorax made a gesture that the translation matrix identified as amusement. "Peace is not the natural order. All species must find their place in the hierarchy. And where is humanity's place? Your kind was meant to be managed, your resources harvested, your populations controlled. This is the way it has always been." Sam leaned forward. "Not anymore." In another part of the complex, Lisa Peterson made a breakthrough. She had been working non-stop with the communication systems captured from Confederation vessels. "I've got it," she told Admiral Miller, who had come to check on her progress. "I can tap into their subspace communication network We can listen to everything they say. Miller's eyes widened. Can we send messages too? Even better, Lisa said with a smile. I can reach the subjugated species directly, bypassing Confederation sensors. We can coordinate with potential allies across Confederation space. This discovery would prove crucial in the weeks that followed. While Earth continued to build its defenses, Lisa established contact with dozens of oppressed civilizations. Many had suffered under Confederation rule for centuries. One such species, the Nelvari, provided valuable intelligence. The Confederation Council is in disarray, their representative told Lisa through the secure channel. Your victory has inspired others to question their authority. There are protests on 17 worlds. Meanwhile, Professor Alan Wright, a physicist from the Australian Science Collective, approached Olivia Warren with a radical idea. We've been studying the dark energy pattern disruptions caused by Confederation drives, he explained, pointing to complex equations on his tablet. I believe we can develop a weapon that targets their propulsion systems specifically. Olivia raised an eyebrow. How quickly? With proper resources, 1 month. You have 2 weeks, she replied. The Confederation was not idle during this time. Supreme Commander Xylos, demoted after his failure at Mars, had been replaced by War Master Draz of the Krell. Draz understood that humans were unlike previous enemies. We must approach this differently, Draz told the High Council. These humans are resourceful and unpredictable. They do not follow standard combat doctrines. What do you propose? Asked the oldest council member, a crystalline being named Zoe. A decisive strike. Gather our forces from across the sector. Overwhelm them with numbers they cannot match. As the Confederation marshaled its forces, Earth prepared for the next phase of the war. The United Earth Fleet now counted 46 combat vessels, including the newly completed supercarrier Invictus. Admiral Miller called a meeting of all ship captains. Among them was Captain Judy Chen of the Defiance, who had distinguished herself during the Battle of Mars. Intelligence suggests the Confederation is calling in reinforcements, Miller explained. They'll return with a force at least 3 times what we faced before. Can we hold against those numbers? Asked one captain. We won't have to, Sam Davies replied. He had recently been promoted to Fleet Admiral after his tactical brilliance at Mars. We're taking the fight to them. The room erupted in surprised murmurs. Sam activated a holographic display showing a star system 12 light-years from Earth. This is Proxima Centauri, specifically this moon orbiting the 4th planet. It contains a major Confederation supply depot. Our intelligence from the subjugated species confirms it's lightly defended as they've pulled ships for the attack on Earth. You want to attack their supply lines, Miller said with approval. Exactly, and not just there. We've identified 6 key targets across nearby systems. We hit them simultaneously, forced them to divide their forces. It was a bold plan. Earth would send 6 battle groups to strike Confederation assets while maintaining a defensive force in the solar system. The risks were enormous, but so were the potential gains. There's more, Lisa Peterson added. We've been in contact with representatives from the Solarian Republic. This was news to everyone. The Solarians were a mysterious species that had remained neutral in galactic politics, keeping to themselves in a cluster of stars at the edge of Confederation space. They've observed our conflict with interest, Lisa continued. While they won't commit to military support yet, they've offered to share advanced technology with us. Why would they help? Asked Captain Chen. They've had their own conflicts with the Confederation in the past. They see us as a potential counterbalance to Confederation power. As preparations for the counteroffensive continued, Professor Wright's team worked around the clock. The dark energy disruptors were complex weapons, requiring precise calibration. The theory is sound, Wright told Dr. Kevin Russell as they tested a prototype. The weapon creates a field that prevents their warp drives from forming properly. Any ship caught in it will be stranded in normal space. And the range? Kevin asked. 2 light minutes at full power. 2 days before the Earth fleet was scheduled to depart, the long-range sensors detected movement. The Confederation forces had returned earlier than expected. This time, they came not just from one direction, but from 3. converging on the solar system. They're trying to split our defenses, Admiral Davies observed from the command center on Earth. Clever. Do we recall our attack groups? Olivia Warren asked. Davies studied the tactical display for a long moment. Then he shook his head. No, we stick to the plan. The defense grid around Jupiter and Mars will slow them down. Our battle groups launch as scheduled. As the Earth fleet prepared to depart, Admiral Miller addressed the crews from the bridge of the Invictus. This is the moment that will define humanity's place in the galaxy, he said, his voice transmitted to every ship. The Confederation believes we will cower before their superior numbers. They believe we will break under pressure. They are wrong. Humanity has faced extinction before, from nature, from ourselves, from the void. Each time we have adapted and survived. Today we do more than survive. Today we show the galaxy that freedom cannot be crushed by tyranny. Across the fleet, crews cheered. The Earth battle groups launched, their warp drives creating brief flashes of light as they disappeared into the darkness. Hours later, the Confederation Armada entered the solar system, their massive dreadnoughts leading the way. War Master Draz watched with satisfaction as his forces approached Mars. Begin the bombardment, he ordered. Destroy their defenses. But, as the Confederation ships moved into position, something unexpected happened. The dark energy disruptors secretly placed throughout the orbital defense grid activated. Suddenly, dozens of Confederation vessels found themselves unable to maneuver at faster-than-light speeds. What is happening? Draz demanded as alarm. Signals filled his command center. Unknown energy field, his science officer replied. It's disrupting our drive systems. Before they could adapt, Earth's defensive forces struck. Smaller, faster human ships darted between the stranded Confederation vessels, targeting critical systems with precision. Simultaneously, across 6 Confederation systems, Earth's battle, groups launched surprise attacks against military installations and supply depots. The carefully coordinated strikes threw the entire Confederation military network into chaos. On a secure channel, Admiral Davies received reports from each battle group. Supply depot at Proxima Centauri destroyed, reported Captain Chen. Minimal. Casualties on our side. Similar messages came from the other targets. The counterattack was working better than anyone had dared hope. As the Battle of Earth raged in the solar system, a message spread through the Confederation's communications network, a message that Earth's intelligence team had carefully planted. It showed images of Earth ships freeing subjugated species from Confederation control posts. It carried a simple statement: the age of oppression is ending. Throughout Confederation space, the message reached billions of beings who had lived under the control of the 7 species. For the first time in countless generations, they dared to hope for freedom. News of Earth's successful counterattacks spread across the galaxy like wildfire. On 17 worlds, populations that had been subjugated for centuries began to resist their Confederation overseers. The carefully constructed hierarchy that had kept the 7 founding species in power for millennia showed its first real cracks. In the Grand Council chamber on the Confederation capital world, the atmosphere was tense. Representatives of the 7 species gathered in emergency session. The Vorax counselor pounded his scaled fist on the table. This is unprecedented. 3 major supply depots destroyed, 5 military outposts captured, communication relays compromised. The crystalline being known as Elder Zoe glowed with a deep red hue, indicating extreme concern. More troubling is the effect on our subject worlds. Reports of unrest are increasing. The humans have lit a spark that could become a flame. Then we must extinguish it, said the Krell representative, feathers bristling. Gather every available warship. Crush Earth completely. Our forces are already stretched thin, objected another counselor, and the humans have proven more dangerous than anticipated. Meanwhile, aboard the Earth carrier Invictus, Admiral John Miller met with the representatives of the newly formed Free Worlds Alliance. Species that had once feared to even speak against the Confederation now openly aligned themselves with humanity. A Nelvari delegate, resembling a slender humanoid with Silvery Skin addressed the gathering. For 12,000 years, the 7 species have maintained their rule through fear and division. They convinced each subjugated world that they were alone. You humans have shown us we are not. Admiral Miller nodded. Together, we're stronger than they are. Your knowledge of Confederation systems combined with our tactical innovations gives us an edge. The alliance grew daily. More species joined, bringing ships, technology, and intelligence. Earth's leadership faced a new question. What would victory look like? In the strategy room beneath the Rocky Mountains, Fleet Admiral Sam Davies met with Olivia Warren and the Earth Council. We have a choice to make, Sam explained, gesturing to the galactic map. The Confederation is vulnerable now, but still powerful. Do we push for total victory, or negotiate from our position of strength? Council President Carlos Reyes looked troubled. What would total victory require? Many more lives, Olivia Warren answered bluntly. Ours and theirs. We could potentially bring down the entire Confederation power structure, but at great cost. The debate continued for hours. Some council members argued for pressing the advantage, destroying the Confederation completely. Others advocated for a negotiated peace that would secure Earth's safety and independence. As they deliberated, Dr. Lisa Peterson made another breakthrough. Working with scientists from the Free Worlds Alliance, she had discovered something shocking. The 7 species aren't the original rulers of the galaxy, she explained to Admiral Miller over a secure channel. They overthrew an even older civilization 15,000 years ago. According to records we found in a captured Confederation database, there are ancient species that predate the Confederation. Are any of them still around? Miller asked. We think so. Hidden, watching. The Solarians hinted they have contact with them. This information added a new dimension to Earth's strategy. What if there were even more powerful allies to be found? Admiral Miller took a diplomatic vessel to meet with Solarian representatives in neutral space. The meeting took place aboard a space station at the edge of Solarian territory. Miller was struck by the Solarians themselves, tall, ethereal beings with skin that seemed to shimmer with its own inner light. Your conflict with the Confederation has created opportunities, said the Solarian diplomat, whose name translated as Voice of Distant Stars. Patterns that have been fixed for millennia are now in flux. We seek allies, Miller replied simply. The Solarian made a gesture that might have been amusement. You already have allies, Admiral. What you truly seek is knowledge. About the ancients? The ones who came before the Confederation? The Solarian's eyes widened slightly. You have learned much in a short time. Yes, there are watchers older than the 7 species. They have observed from the shadows, waiting for the right moment to re-emerge. And is now that moment? Perhaps. They have taken note of humanity's resilience. You fight not just for yourselves, but for the freedom of others. This interests them. Miller returned to Earth with promises of Solarian technical assistance and hints of even more powerful allies waiting in the wings. The information energized Earth's military planners. Meanwhile, Professor Alan Wright continued to develop new weapons based on his understanding of dark energy. His latest creation was a defensive shield that could protect entire planets from bombardment. The principle is similar to the disruptors, he explained to a group that included Olivia Warren and Dr. Kevin Russell. But instead of targeting their drives, it creates a field that prevents weapons fire from reaching the surface. Can we deploy it in time? Olivia asked. The first generators are already being installed around Earth. Mars will be next. On the Confederation side, War Master Draz had been replaced after the failure of his offensive. The new Supreme Military Commander was a Vorax general named Cyrax, known for his ruthlessness. The humans must be made an example of, Cyrax told the Confederation Council. I have recalled our forces from the outer territories. Every available ship is being directed to Earth. We will crush them with overwhelming force. And the rebellions on our subject worlds? Asked one counselor. Once Earth falls, the others will lose hope. The natural order will reassert itself. As the Confederation gathered its forces for one massive push, Earth and its allies prepared for the coming storm. The Free Worlds Alliance now included 23 species, each contributing what they could to the defense. Fleet Admiral Davies developed a bold new strategy. Instead of meeting the Confederation Armada at Earth, they would intercept it at Proxima Centauri. The star system had strategic importance as a jumping-off point for any invasion of Earth, and its unique radiation patterns would give the Alliance fleet certain advantages. "We choose the battlefield this time," Davies told his commanders. "Make them fight where we're strongest." The Earth fleet, now reinforced with ships from the Free Worlds Alliance, took up positions around Proxima Centauri. Professor Wright's team worked feverishly to install dark energy disruptors throughout the system. Dr. Russell's advancements in shield technology were implemented across the Allied fleet. 3 days later, the Confederation Armada arrived. Over 400 warships, the largest military force ever assembled in the sector. General Cyrax commanded from the dreadnought Eternal Dominion, a vessel twice the size of Earth's largest carrier. "Pathetic," Cyrax remarked as his sensors detected the Allied fleet. "They are outnumbered 3-1. "The humans have proven resourceful before, General," his second-in-command cautioned. "Previous commanders underestimated them." "I do not. All ships advance in battle formation. No mercy. No survivors." As the massive Confederation fleet moved into the Proxima Centauri system, the Allied forces held their positions. On the bridge of the Invictus, Admiral Miller and Fleet Admiral Davies watched the enemy approach. "They're confident," Davies observed. "They should be," Miller replied. "By any conventional measure, we're outmatched." "Good thing we don't fight conventionally," Davies said with a slight smile. He opened a channel to the entire Allied fleet. "All ships execute Operation Thunderbolt." Across the system, the trap was sprung. Dark energy disruptors activated, creating zones where Confederation ships suddenly lost faster-than-light capabilities. Simultaneously, the radiation from Proxima Centauri itself was amplified by devices the Solarians had provided, creating sensor blindness in the Confederation fleet. In the confusion, the smaller, more agile ships of the Alliance struck with precision. Earth vessels, using tactics that contradicted standard military doctrine, attacked from unexpected vectors. Ships from the Free Worlds used their intimate knowledge of Confederation vessel weaknesses to devastating effect. The Battle of Proxima Centauri had begun, and despite being outnumbered, the Allied fleet seized the initial advantage. As the massive Confederation formation broke apart in confusion, a message was transmitted to General Cyrax's flagship. It came from Admiral Miller himself. "You should have left us alone." The Battle of Proxima Centauri lasted 27 hours. When it ended, the once mighty Confederation Armada lay in ruins. Of the 400 warships that had entered the system, less than 100 managed to retreat. The massive dreadnought, Eternal Dominion, drifted powerless, its weapon systems destroyed and its engines dead. On the bridge of the Earth carrier Invictus, Fleet Admiral Sam Davies watched as boarding parties secured the enemy flagship. General Cyrax, Supreme Commander of the Confederation forces, was taken prisoner, the highest-ranking Confederation official ever captured. "I still can't believe we won," said Captain Judy Chen, who stood beside Davies. Her ship, the Defiance, had led the final assault on the enemy command vessel. "Not just one," Davies replied. "We changed everything." News of the Confederation's devastating defeat spread across the galaxy at the speed of quantum communications. On dozens of worlds, populations that had lived under Confederation rule for generations rose up against their oppressors. The Seven Dobry, founding species for the first time in 12,000 years, faced the real possibility of losing their grip on power. 3 days after the battle, Admiral John Miller met with the captured General Cyrax. The Vorax commander, once proud and confident, now sat in restraints, his scaled skin dull with defeat. "You realize what you've done?" Cyrax asked, his voice a low hiss. 12 millennia of order destroyed in less than a year." "Your order," Miller replied, "built on the subjugation of other species." Cyrax made a gesture that the translation matrix identified as dismissive. They needed guidance, structure. Without the Confederation, the galaxy will descend into chaos. Perhaps. Or perhaps something better will emerge. Back on Earth, the United Earth Council met to determine next steps. The chamber was filled not just with human representatives but also delegates from the Free Worlds Alliance. "We have a unique opportunity," said Council President Carlos Reyes. "The Confederation is weakened but not destroyed. We must decide, do we press for total victory or offer terms?" Chief Defense Strategist Olivia Warren presented the military assessment. "We could continue the offensive. With our allies, we now have the strength to strike at the Confederation core worlds. But it would mean more bloodshed, more destruction." The Nelvari ambassador spoke next. "For countless generations, my people have lived under Confederation dominance. The desire for vengeance is strong, but what we truly seek is freedom, not retribution." Similar sentiments were expressed by other alliance members. They wanted liberation, not conquest. Meanwhile, Dr. Lisa Peterson made contact with something extraordinary. Working with Solarian scientists, she established communication with one of the ancient species that predated the Confederation. Beings, called the Archivists, who had hidden themselves away for 15,000 years. The Archivist representative appeared as a shimmering, translucent figure in the holographic chamber. Its form shifted constantly like flowing water. "We have watched your conflict with interest," the Archivist said, its voice resonating strangely. "Few species have successfully challenged the Seven in all these millennia." "Why did you never intervene?" Lisa asked. "It was not our place. After our own great war with the precursors of the Seven, we chose observation over intervention. But now, the patterns shift. A new balance emerges." The Archivist offered no military aid, but something potentially more valuable: access to knowledge, and technology far beyond even what the Confederation possessed. With this new development, Earth and its allies formulated a plan. Rather than continuing the war, they would force the Confederation to the negotiating table. A defensive perimeter would be established, spanning 100 light-years around Earth and its allies. Any Confederation military vessel crossing this boundary would be considered an act of war. As preparations for peace talks began, Professor Alan Wright and Dr. Kevin Russell worked together on a new project, an interstellar gate network that would connect Earth with its allies. "This will change everything," Russell said as they finalized the designs. "Travel between allied worlds in minutes instead of weeks. And more importantly," Wright added, "it can't be used by hostile forces. The gates will only respond to authorized ships." 1 month after the Battle of Proxima Centauri, representatives from Earth, the Free Worlds Alliance, the Solarian Republic, and the Confederation gathered on a neutral space station. It was the most significant diplomatic meeting in galactic history. Miller, now promoted to Grand Admiral, led the Earth delegation. Fleet Admiral Davies commanded the military escort. Olivia Warren and Lisa Peterson rounded out the team. The Confederation sent a diminished delegation. The once arrogant representatives of the Seven species now faced a new reality where their dominance was no longer assured. "We propose a new order," Miller stated as the talks began. "Not one based on subjugation, but on mutual respect and cooperation. The Confederation has maintained stability for 12,000 years, objected the Krell representative. "Would you throw that away for untested ideals?" "Your stability came at the cost of freedom for countless beings," responded the Nelvari ambassador. "That price is too high." For 3 days, the negotiations continued. The Confederation representatives fought to maintain as much of their former power as possible. The Alliance delegation stood firm. On the 4th day, a new player entered the talks. An archivist appeared, startling the Confederation representatives who had believed the ancient species extinct. "The cycle turns," the archivist stated. "As it did when the Seven rose, as it does now as they fall. The question is not whether change comes, but what form it takes." The presence of the ancient being shifted the dynamic of the negotiations. The Confederation, realizing how completely the balance of power had changed, became more conciliatory. By the seventh day, a framework was established. The Confederation would recognize the independence of Earth and the free worlds. A demilitarized zone would separate their territories. Trade would be permitted but regulated, and a council with representatives from all species would be formed to resolve future disputes. As the formal signing ceremony began, a Vorax counselor approached Admiral Miller privately. "How did you do it?" he asked. "How did a single species, only just achieving interstellar travel, manage to defeat an empire that has stood for millennia?" Miller considered the question. "You made a fundamental error," he said finally. "You attacked us, believing we would submit out of fear or rationality. But humans don't react to threats by surrendering. We unite. We innovate. We fight harder." The Vorax made a gesture of acknowledgement. "A costly lesson." "One you do well to remember," Miller replied. "Earth desires peace. But we are prepared for war. Attack again and be annihilated. That is our first, last, and only warning to the galaxy." After the signing ceremony, Miller stood with Davies, Warren, and Peterson, looking out at the stars through the station's viewport. "So what now?" asked Davies. "Now comes the hard part," Miller said. "Building something better than what came before. For a species that was only supposed to be managed and harvested, we didn't do too badly," Peterson remarked with a smile. Olivia Warren nodded toward the viewport and the galaxy beyond. "They had no idea what they were dealing with when they attacked us." "No," Miller agreed. "But they do now. And so does every other species in the galaxy." Beyond the viewport, Earth ships prepared to return home. But they would not be alone. Vessels from a dozen allied worlds would accompany them, beginning an era of cooperation that would reshape galactic civilization. Humanity had entered the galactic stage as intended victims. They emerged as leaders of a new order, one based not on domination, but on the radical idea that all sentient beings deserved freedom. And if that idea needed defending, Earth stood ready.